In addition to being able to pass data into a topic block, we also want to be able to get data out of the topic block when it ends. And now let's take a look at how to do that. So just like we use the start node in order to define input parameters, we're going to use the end node to define output parameters. So again, our list is empty. We're going to add one right now. We're going to call this output parameter access user. And now we need to give it a value or define what will determine what the value is when the topic block finishes. So again, we could put a constant in here. We can use JavaScript to determine what the value is. In this case, I'm going to link it to an input variable. So I'm going to click on the button. I'm going to choose input variables, and I'm going to link it to access user. And that is specifically this control right here, this node right here called access user. So when we are asking the user to tell us who needs access or who needs their access updated, the value that they provide is being stored in this access user input variable. And we have now linked that to this access user output variable at the end of the topic block. So when the topic block finishes, it will pass that value to the topic under the name access user. So again, I'm going to save my topic block. I'm going to publish it because we need to publish it in order for this new variable to be available to topics. And then I'm going to switch over to my topic here. Now, in order to refresh this with the new version of the published topic block, I'm going to leave the designer and I'm going to go back into it, into that same topic. And you'll see now that I get a warning because basically it's telling me, if I click on the warning or click on the item that has the warning, it's telling me that something's been added, something's been changed about this topic block. We know what it is, we just made the change. So I'm going to clear the warning. And now under output mapping, you can see here's the variable access user. So this is the name of the variable as defined in the topic block. If in the topic itself I wanted to go by a different name, I can change it here. The default is it matches the name defined in the block. But let's say you have two topic blocks in a topic and both of them have an output variable called access user. Well, in the topic itself, you can't have two variables with the same name, so this gives you the opportunity to change their names to make them unique within the scope of the topic itself. You can also completely disable an output variable and say, you know, in this case, I don't need the value, so turn it off, and then it doesn't interfere with anything. We're going to leave it on. So when this topic block finishes, it's going to return whatever value was given in the access user control. Now we want to see that in our topic. So in order to do that, I'm going to add a text node here, and we'll call it, let's just call it display access user. And in order to display it, we're going to use some JavaScript. So I'm going to open up my scripting window, and I'm going to go ahead and input that JavaScript now. So the script we're using here is really just for demonstration purposes so that we can see the value that's being returned by the topic block in the conversation itself. So what I've got here is return gs.getMessage, which we've seen before. We use this to generate messages within JavaScript, but I've added something that we haven't seen before here. You'll notice that in the message itself, which is shown in the single quotes in red here, that there's a placeholder, and the placeholder is the curly braces with a 0 in the middle. What this is basically telling it is this is a placeholder, And what I want to insert in this place when the message is displayed is the array element from this second parameter, which is an array, and I want it to use whatever is at index 0. And if you're familiar with JavaScript, you know that you can reference the elements of an array by index, which is an integer, and the first element is always 0. So since this array only has a single element, I want it to display that single element right here. So what you see in the array is actually a reference to an input variable within the topic. So again, we've got VA inputs, which is an object that holds all the input variables. Access_user is the variable that is coming from the topic block when it ends. And the .getValue is basically just saying I want to get the value of that variable. So this is the object, this is the element within the object, access_user, and then we're using the getValue method to get the value of access_user. So that becomes the first element in the array, which is what gets displayed right here. So let's see what this looks like in practice. I will save that. I will save my topic. I will test it. And since we are still passing the input variable to the topic block, which is the word access, it is still skipping that first question and going straight to asking what type of access help I want. In this case, I'm going to choose that I want to request an update to Oracle Access, and it's going to ask me the email address of the user to be updated. Of course, we need to give it an email address, so we'll say user@company.com. And remember, this is that access user variable. So then our topic block exits, it passes that value back to the topic, and we can see it displayed here. Access user is user@company.com, and then the topic itself ended. And if we look in the variables here, we can see the variable that was passed back is user@company.com. So that's how you can define output variables in topic blocks and then make use of the data that is returned from a topic block when it exits.